Is that where his duty ended? That begins the legal analysis. Two tremendous legal minds. Defense attorney Mark Geragos, friend of show, represented celebrities. And by the way, celebrity, I argue, is a factor here. Winona Ryder, Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, just to name a few. We also have former real federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. Oh, I like the beard. Good look. All right, but I show no difference. I show no difference. You both have a beard. Let us discuss. Renato, you will take the prosecution part in this. Obviously, Geragos will do what he does. So the first suggestion is the breach of a duty, the recklessness, that Alec Baldwin had a responsibility here that he failed to exercise, and that led to the murder. Where is that case here, Renato?
What the prosecution is focused on really are two things. One is he didn't check the gun to see whether or not it had live rounds in it before he proceeded. That's one thing. You should always be careful when you're using a weapon. The second thing is he pointed it directly at her and shot, right? I mean, this is a movie set. It's not target practice. He could have aimed elsewhere. And their view of the matter is, under New Mexico law, as you pointed out, this is a felony. It's a serious matter. Obviously, it's not murder. They didn't charge it that way. But the bottom line is he did not exercise the care that an ordinary person, a reasonable person, should have exercised when they were handling a potentially deadly weapon.
Well, first of all, the standard is recklessness. So it's only negligence if they go to this secondary application of the law because a weapon was used. Why do you believe that should apply here? Yes, he obviously used a weapon. But when you look at the legislative history of that law, Renato, it was a multiplier effect. It was to keep people from aggravating a criminal situation by using a firearm. How does that apply here?
Well, I think the reality is, to be blunt, I do think the prosecutors overcharged this a little bit, but I think that they did it in part because this was clearly negligent. They feel like they have him on that charge, that that he wasn't, exercising much care. He was just relying on others. He wasn't exercising the care that he should have. And I think the view on the recklessness on their argument is going to have to be he was not concerned with her life. He was shooting willy-nilly, and he did not exercise steps himself. And I also suspect that the communications that they have, because they've talked about the fact that they've reviewed various communications and that those are to come, are probably going to be part of the important evidence that they have that's going to form the evidence at trial proving that intent.
Defense counsel, to the extent that Baldwin needs to put on an affirmative case, what would it be?
Well, first of all, to Renato's point about the communications, let me flesh that out for a second. There's two aspects to Alec's culpability or potential culpability and liability. One is as the actor and the person who either pulled the trigger, even though he denies he pulled the trigger, or actually it went off. The other aspect is, remember, he was a producer. The communications that I think Renato was talking about were in real time leading up to this fateful day. There were people quitting. There were people sending emails saying this place is not safe. There is evidence that they made a financial decision to not get a more experienced armorer. That's why I think that you've got to be very careful, and why Alec Baldwin never, ever should have done that interview with George Stephanopoulos. And why do I say that? Because in that interview, number one, he gave the prosecutors a giant stick to hit him with, which was, I didn't pull the trigger. What was the first thing they did? They went to the FBI. They got the FBI to say this gun wouldn't have gone off without pulling the trigger. Number two, he also made the statement, and this is talk about triggering the prosecutors. He said he wasn't the one responsible. He didn't take responsibility for that. This is a case, though, that he has the ability to defend. And he's going to say, and he's already kind of laid it out, that basically he was told, he didn't say, or nobody said to him, hey, there's no round in there. They said cold. Cold meaning that somebody else had checked the gun. That he was doing this at the direction of the woman that unfortunately was killed. She was the one who was telling him where to shoot, how to shoot, where to point the gun. He was following her literal direction.
Hey, thank you for watching. please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.